The protein paradox. Why everything you've been told about muscle loss is wrong. There is a devastating secret hiding in plain sight, a truth so contrary to everything we have been collectively taught, so profoundly simple yet so systematically ignored by mainstream medicine that it has been tragically overlooked for decades, condemning millions to a slow, preventable decline. It is the clandestine reason why countless people over the age of 65 feel a creeping, insidious weakness take over their bodies, a progressive frailty that seems to mock their every effort to stay strong. They do everything they are told to do. They dutifully blend their expensive protein shakes, meticulously grill their skinless chicken breasts, and conscientiously scramble their morning eggs, only to find their legs becoming more fragile, their grip strength fading into a memory, and the simple, once thoughtless act of climbing a flight of stairs transforming into a monumental, breath-stealing challenge. For over 20 long and frustrating years, I was an unwitting participant in this chorus of misinformation, a respected geriatrician confidently and authoritatively prescribing ever-increasing amounts of protein to my elderly patients who came to me with these exact complaints of pervasive, unexplained weakness. I was following the textbook, the guidelines, the consensus, but I was fundamentally, catastrophically missing the most important piece of the puzzle. The glaring inconsistency haunted my nights. I could not reconcile why a small subset of my patients saw modest, often temporary, improvements, while so many others, the vast majority, despite following my advice to the absolute letter, continued to waste away before my very eyes, their muscles melting away like ice in the summer sun. The answer, the breakthrough that would ultimately redefine my entire professional life, did not come from a prestigious medical journal or a keynote speech at a sterile medical conference. It came from the quiet, unassuming wisdom of a 79-year-old Japanese patient, a man whose gentle demeanor belied a profound understanding of his own body. During a routine consultation, as I was about to launch into my usual protein lecture, he politely interrupted me and, with a simple, declarative statement, changed the entire course of my career. He told me, "Doctor, I do not focus on protein, I take zinc." That one sentence, that simple declaration, shattered my long-held, deeply ingrained beliefs and sent me down a rabbit hole of discovery, a relentless quest into a forgotten corner of biomedical research that they never once mentioned in medical school. What I uncovered was nothing short of a silent epidemic, a hidden, widespread deficiency that was systematically rendering all that carefully consumed protein utterly and completely useless. And it is a deficiency that could be affecting you or someone you love right now, silently robbing you of your strength, your mobility, your dignity, and your most precious possession, your independence. The silent switch that shuts down your strength. One night, fueled by a potent cocktail of professional frustration and a deep, gnawing sense of responsibility to the patients who placed their trust in me, I sat down at my desk with a towering stack of clinical records, determined to unearth a pattern, a common thread that I had been overlooking for 2 decades. The question burned in my mind with an almost physical intensity. Why do our muscles, after the age of 65, simply stop responding to the very building blocks they need, even when there is a clear and abundant supply of high-quality protein available in the diet? As I meticulously sifted through years of patient data, cross-referencing blood work, dietary logs, and strength assessments, the answer began to emerge from the fog of conventional wisdom, and it had startlingly little to do with the sheer quantity of nutrients being consumed, but everything to do with the body's diminishing ability to receive and process them. This devastating age-related phenomenon is known in the scientific literature as anabolic resistance. To truly grasp its implications, think of it in these terms. In a young, healthy person, eating a protein-rich meal is like sending a clear, loud, and unambiguous message directly to the muscle cells. The message rings out: building materials have arrived at the job site. Get to work immediately and build new, stronger protein fibers. The muscle cells, the diligent workers, hear this powerful message loud and clear and immediately spring into action. initiating the complex cascade of events known as muscle protein synthesis. But as we age, and particularly after the pivotal threshold of age 65, it is as if the receiver in the muscle cells begins to malfunction and fail. The signal is still being sent from the digestive system, but it comes through as distorted static, a weak and garbled whisper that lacks the authority to command action. The muscle hears a faint, unintelligible murmur, but does not fully understand or execute the command to build and repair. The result of this communication breakdown is utterly heartbreaking and deeply counterintuitive. You can consume a theoretically perfect diet, meticulously planning for 30 grams of high-quality, complete protein at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, yet your muscles stubbornly fail to rebuild and may even continue to shrink. The building materials, the amino acids, are successfully delivered to the construction site, but the construction workers are all on a permanent, indefinite break, deaf to the foreman's calls. This single biological reality explains the cruel, baffling irony of why so many older adults experience sarcopenia, the progressive loss of muscle mass, even while adhering to a healthier, more protein-conscious diet than they ever did in their youth. Their body has lost the fundamental ability to flip the on switch for muscle growth. It needs something else entirely, a different kind of signal, a master key to repair the faulty wiring, clear the static, and restore the vital lines of communication. The forgotten mineral, unlocking your body's true potential. For years, I believed, as did the overwhelming majority of my esteemed colleagues in the medical community, that the solution to age-related muscle loss was a simple matter of dosage, more protein, more calories, or a more rigorous exercise regimen. We were treating the problem as a supply chain issue, assuming that if we just flooded the system with more raw materials, the body would have no choice but to build. But the truth, I discovered, is far more elegant, more fundamental, and infinitely more profound. Your muscles do not just need the building blocks. They require a supervisor on site to orchestrate the entire process, to give the orders, and to ensure the work actually gets done. Deep inside our bodies, at the very heart of our cellular machinery, there is a master regulatory enzyme officially named the mechanistic target of rapamycin, or mTOR, which acts as the all-important construction site supervisor for muscle growth. The protein you eat, broken down into its constituent amino acids, represents the cement, the bricks, and the lumber. But if mTOR is not activated, if the supervisor is asleep in his office, that pile of high-quality cement and those perfectly good bricks will just sit there in a heap, unused and inert, eventually being swept away by the body's cleanup crews as metabolic waste, or even worse, being shunted into storage as body fat. And what is the one essential, non-negotiable tool that this crucial supervisor needs to get out of its chair, walk onto the construction site, and start giving orders? It is the humble, forgotten mineral my wise Japanese patient spoke of: zinc. This discovery was not just an insight, it was a complete paradigm shift, a revelation that recontextualized everything I thought I knew about geriatric nutrition. Zinc is not just a secondary nutrient for boosting your immune system during cold and flu season. It is the absolute master key that turns the ignition for muscle protein synthesis by directly activating the mTOR enzyme. And herein lies the silent, devastating crisis of aging. As we get older, our physiological ability to absorb zinc from our food plummets dramatically. This decline is partly due to a natural and progressive decrease in the production of stomach acid, a condition known as hypochlorhydria, which is absolutely essential for liberating minerals from the food matrix they are bound to. To make this perilous situation infinitely worse, millions of older adults are routinely prescribed common antacid medications, such as proton pump inhibitors like omeprazole or pantoprazole. These drugs, while effective for managing heartburn and acid reflux, can virtually eliminate your body's ability to absorb dietary zinc by neutralizing the very stomach acid it depends on. So even if you are diligently eating zinc-rich foods like red meat, poultry, or beans, your body simply is not getting any of it. Your internal levels silently and progressively drop. The mTOR supervisor is left without its essential key, and your muscles, starved of their growth signal, slowly but surely shut down their operations. Real stories, real strength, the power of a simple correction. Let me tell you about two people, two of my own patients, whose lives illustrate the profound impact of this hidden deficiency more powerfully and poignantly than any clinical study or scientific paper ever could. Clara, a vibrant 78-year-old woman who had once been an avid gardener, came to my clinic in a state of deep despair. Her physical world had shrunk to the four walls of her living room. She was so profoundly weak that she could no longer get out of a simple armchair without the physical assistance of her daughter. Her previous doctors, all well-meaning and highly qualified, had her on an aggressive high-protein diet, complete with multiple daily servings of chalky nutritional powders and expensive supplements. Yet she only grew progressively weaker and more despondent with each passing month. Her case was a textbook example of the protein paradox. When we finally tested her blood for micronutrient levels, a test that is tragically not standard practice, her zinc levels were alarmingly critically low. We immediately started her on a gentle, highly absorbable form of supplemental zinc, specifically zinc picolinate. Crucially, we made no other significant changes to her diet or her minimal activity level at that time. Within a mere 3 weeks, she called my office, and I could hear in her voice a vibrancy and an energy that had been absent for years. She had started to feel a novel surge of strength returning to her legs, a feeling she had thought was lost to her forever. 2 months later, she walked into my office, completely unassisted, proudly announcing that she had just returned from a solo trip to the local market to buy her own groceries. The joy, the confidence, and the sheer dignity that had returned to her face was one of the most rewarding moments of my entire medical career. Then there was the case of Don Hector, a proud, fiercely independent 71-year-old widower who lived alone and prided himself on his self-reliance. He came to me and confessed, with a voice thick with deep embarrassment, that he could no longer open a simple jar of jam. "My 5-year-old grandson has more strength in his hands than I do now," he said, his voice cracking with the shame of his perceived failure. Don Hector was the quintessential example of a patient doing everything right according to conventional wisdom. He ate red meat several times a week, consumed 3 whole eggs for breakfast every single day, and even dutifully drank a post-meal protein shake. His protein intake was, by all metrics, perfect, yet his muscles were completely deaf to its call. As I suspected, his zinc levels were even lower than Clara's had been. For him, the problem was never a lack of building blocks. It was that the entire construction site had been completely abandoned by its supervisor. We began a simple, targeted protocol focused on restoring his functional zinc levels. Just a few weeks later, he sent me a text message with a photo that I will never forget. It was a picture of him holding a large, heavy water cooler bottle. The message read, "Doctor, I lifted the big water bottle today. I even peeled an orange." Me. "When I feel weak," he explained, "my wife makes me a simple oyster soup. It is what my grandfather always ate, and his father before him." This simple, comforting tradition is, in fact, a powerful, targeted nutritional intervention, passed down not through textbooks but through family kitchens. Now let us travel halfway across the world to rural communities in West Africa, to places in Ghana or Senegal where protein powders, supplement stores, and modern gyms are virtually non-existent. Here, a common dietary staple, especially for the respected elders of the community, is a pungent, flavorful fermented sauce made from a combination of dried fish, ground seeds, and sometimes even smoked oysters or other shellfish. These traditional preparations, developed over centuries, are incredibly rich sources of easily absorbable zinc and other essential minerals. And what do we observe in these populations? We see 70 and 80-year-olds who still actively work in the fields, who can walk for miles to visit neighboring villages, and who possess a raw functional strength that would put many younger Westerners to shame. What if the real solution to our modern epidemic of frailty is not about adding more isolated, processed powders and bars to our already overburdened diets, but about returning to the whole, nutrient-dense and synergistic foods that our ancestors instinctively knew were the true key to a long, strong, and independent life? This ancient wisdom suggests that nature's blueprint for vitality is not based on maximizing a single nutrient, but on a complex, harmonious interplay of many, with essential minerals acting as the conductors of the entire orchestra. Your practical blueprint: how to reclaim your strength safely and effectively. So, how can you begin? To determine if this pervasive silent deficiency might be affecting you or a loved one, while a formal blood test, specifically a red blood cell zinc or plasma zinc test, is the most accurate and definitive method, there are several common and often overlooked signs and symptoms you can look for. Beyond the obvious and primary complaint of muscle weakness or fatigue, these can include brittle fingernails, particularly those with telltale white spots or bands, a noticeable loss of appetite, or a diminished sense of taste and smell, which often leads to a vicious cycle of poor nutrition, wounds, cuts, or bruises that seem to take an unusually long time to heal, and a compromised immune system that results in frequent colds or infections. If this constellation of symptoms sounds familiar, it is a strong indication that it is time to take proactive and informed action. When it comes to supplementation, it is critically important to understand that not all forms of zinc are created equal. You must avoid the cheap, common, and largely ineffective forms like zinc oxide, which is poorly absorbed by the body and is better suited for use in sunscreen than in a nutritional supplement. Instead, you should opt for highly bioavailable chelated forms like zinc picolinate or zinc bisglycinate, which are bound to organic molecules that the body can easily recognize and absorb. For an older adult looking to replenish their stores, a typical and safe starting dose is between 15 to 30 milligrams per day, taken with food to avoid potential stomach upset. However, perhaps the most common and crucial mistake people make is taking their zinc supplement at the wrong time. Zinc is a mineral that competes for absorption in the gut with other minerals, most notably calcium and iron. Therefore, taking your zinc supplement with a daily multivitamin, a calcium pill, or even a large glass of milk at breakfast is like trying to send two people through a single narrow doorway at the exact same time. They get stuck, and neither gets through effectively. To ensure you achieve maximum absorption and benefit, it is best to take your zinc supplement with a meal that does not contain other mineral supplements, such as lunch or dinner, and to leave a window of at least 2 hours between your zinc and any calcium or iron supplements you may be taking. Furthermore, it is essential to be aware that long-term, unmonitored supplementation with zinc can potentially deplete your body's levels of copper, another essential trace mineral. To maintain this crucial and delicate balance, it is wise to consciously incorporate copper-rich foods like nuts, seeds, dark chocolate, seafood, and chicken liver into your regular diet, or to choose a high-quality zinc supplement that already includes a small, physiologically balanced amount of copper, often in a ratio of about 15.1 zinc to copper. The deeper science of renewal. Beyond a simple mineral. The incredible power of zinc to reawaken dormant muscles extends far beyond the simple activation of a single enzyme. Its influence operates at the very core of your biology, directly interfacing with the blueprint of life itself, your DNA. Within the nucleus of your cells are remarkable protein structures known as zinc fingers, which, as their name suggests, act like tiny, precise hands that can physically bind to specific sequences of your DNA. In doing so, They have the power to literally turn certain genes on or off, a process known as gene expression. With age, many of the vital genes responsible for muscle growth, repair, and regeneration become silenced or downregulated, as if a dimmer switch has been slowly turned down on them. Zinc has the unique and remarkable ability to go into your cellular library, find these dormant genes, and reactivate them, effectively telling them to start producing the critical growth factors and structural proteins your body needs to rebuild and maintain healthy muscle tissue. But its synergistic power does not end there. Zinc also works in a powerful and inseparable partnership with vitamin D. While we now widely recognize that vitamin D is crucial for bone health and muscle function, its effects are severely limited in a zinc-deficient environment. This is because the vitamin D receptor, the specific molecule within the muscle cells that vitamin D must bind to in order to exert its effects, is itself a zinc finger protein. Without an adequate supply of zinc, the vitamin D receptor cannot properly form its structure and dock with the DNA, rendering the vitamin D you consume or synthesize from the sun far less effective. Finally, zinc is an essential cofactor for a fundamental cellular process called autophagy, which is, in essence, your body's sophisticated internal cleaning and recycling crew. Autophagy allows your muscle cells to identify, break down, and clear out old, damaged, or misfolded proteins and other cellular debris. This process is vital for keeping cells healthy, efficient, and functional. By activating muscle-building genes, enhancing the power of vitamin D, and supporting this critical cellular cleanup process, zinc does not just help you build new muscle tissue, it helps you maintain the functional quality, health, and resilience of the muscle you already have, creating a holistic environment of renewal from the inside out. Movement is medicine, the gentle path to rebuilding. Restoring your internal zinc levels to an optimal state creates the perfect biochemical environment for muscle growth, but your body still needs a compelling reason to build. You must provide the spark through physical movement. This absolutely does not mean you need to immediately start a punishing routine of lifting heavy weights at a commercial gym. In fact, one of the most remarkable things that happens when your zinc levels are optimized is that your muscles become far more sensitive and responsive to gentle, low-impact exercise. Simple, consistent movements that once seemed futile suddenly become powerfully effective stimuli for growth and strengthening. You can begin with a simple and sustainable routine that you can perform in the comfort and safety of your own home, aiming for 3 sessions per week. A great starting point would be to try a series of assisted squats, holding onto the back of a sturdy chair or a kitchen counter for support and balance, focusing on controlled movement rather than speed. You can perform seated arm raises with a light resistance band to strengthen your shoulders and back. You can practice and improve your balance, a critical component in fall prevention, by holding onto a counter and simply standing on one leg for a few seconds at a time, alternating legs. Even the simple act of marching in place while watching your favorite television program can provide the necessary stimulus to your leg and core muscles. The key to success is not the intensity of the workout, but the unwavering consistency of the effort. When you combine this gentle, regular movement with the deep cellular restorative power of zinc, you are finally giving your body the 2 essential and long-lost signals it has been missing: the biochemical command to build and the physical reason to build. You are no longer just fighting a losing battle to stop the inevitable decline. You are actively and powerfully reversing it, systematically reclaiming the strength, the energy, the confidence, and the precious freedom that is rightfully and always has been yours to enjoy.